Well, it's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, 9 a.m. in Sacramento, and I believe it's noon somewhere in North Carolina. And this is news that you can use for Wednesday, October 11th from CarEdge with your host today, me, Ray, you know me, Brandon filling in for Zach, and Will Justice helping to fill in for Zach because Brandon's a little bit under the weather. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Very good, very good. I appreciate y'all letting me come on here. It's always fun to come and join in on the show. So this is the highlight of my day today.
Well, well, I'll say it for everyone out there. I am so sorry to hear that.
I wasn't going to say that. I thought that. I thought,
well,
oh, that's sad. But okay.
I'm the guy that always says things that the people just think. Okay, that they wish they had enough nerve to say. I usually just say them. So I don't know if you're aware of this, Brandon, because I sure wasn't until I looked at the headline for today's thumbnail. But GM has a huge problem, Brandon, and well, nobody's talking about it, probably because they don't really have a problem. But that's besides. What do you think that problem could be?
I didn't look at the thumbnail before I jumped in here anyway. I didn't know I was coming in here till like 15 minutes ago. So GM's problems, UAW strikes, trucks are too high, days of inventory up.
Oh my God, you are so far off, my friend.
Oh
We're going to help you with this. According to my son, okay, and this apparently is the world according to Zach. GM's problem is that their fleet sales are way up. Did you know that, Brandon?
That sounds like a horrible problem when sales are up. We close up shop and we sell more.
Oh my God, yes. Doesn't everybody? There apparently, as we've been stating, I don't know, for the bulk of the year, say the first 9 months of the year, we've been stating that basically retail sales to customers on the new car side of things are somewhat stagnant, and that all this growth that the headlines are always talking about are due to an increase in fleet sales. And according to the article that was just up, Cox has figured it out. Fleet sales is carrying the day, ladies and gentlemen. And I know that we always deal with doom and gloom, but this is proof positive that the buying public is kind of stuck in what's that, quicksand, and that whatever growth we're seeing is strictly due to governmental fleets, rental fleets. Brandon is somebody who's in the business, and I know you're on the used car side of things. How do you see something like this impacting your future business down the road? Because it'll be a while before these fleet sales ever make it to the used car facilities.
Yeah, so obviously, well, I can defend Zach on his thumbnail a little bit, looking at that, just saying it's bad for the company in general because retail sales being down is horrible, right? And fleet sales can only hold for so long because there's going to be so much pull forward in demand right now for fleet sales because there just weren't any vehicles for these companies over the last couple of years. So now they're all ordering, they're getting loaded up, and then I don't know how long most companies, the average company, takes to reorder their big fleet orders. But if it's 3 or 4 years, would be my assumption, is that okay, they're ordering all these trucks right now and they're going to get filled up, and then we're going to have this big decrease in fleet sales after all this pull forward in demand, and then that's not going to be able to bolster a lot of these OEMs in the future. So there we go. Let's defend Zach a little bit for the thumbnail in that aspect. As far as what it's going to do for the used car market and for us in general, we don't see a lot of these fleet vehicles that we buy anyway. A lot of fleet sales, when they're done with them, that they will send them to auction, but it's not the kind of stuff that I buy. So it will help the used car market in general 3-4 years from now, whenever they're actually doing these fleet sales of the vehicles that they need to get rid of so they can buy some more. But it's going to take years for us to see the impact of that from the increased fleet sales that we're seeing right now.
Just from a tactical standpoint, and yes, I agree with you. The fact that GM's sales growth has been based on fleet sales is really an issue, because the way you really want to grow your business is through your retail channel, not necessarily your fleet channel. Now, having said that, do you foresee, as someone whose specialty is pre-owned cars, that this could exacerbate the situation that we already find ourselves in that there just aren't enough quality 1, 2, 3-year-old used cars out there to be had by dealers? Because my guess is these fleet vehicles aren't going to make it to any type of auction for years and years and years, especially if they're governmental fleets and commercial fleets. Those they don't get turned all that often. They get turned when they got a couple 100,000 miles on them. So do you think this exacerbates the situation where there just aren't enough retail customers out there trading in good quality used cars so that someone like you can get your hands on a used car?
Yeah, I mean that's the big problem with the used car market right now, right? Because these new car dealers, they're not selling as many vehicles as they need to be selling to actually push trade-ins into the used car market. We've been saying this for a year now, that the reason why there's such a shortage on the used car side is because there was a shortage on the new car side, so they weren't selling anything. That created this big price bubble on the new car side, and now even though they have inventory, people can't afford it, so they're still going to continue to not be able to sell a lot of these big trucks, which means they're not getting trade-ins, which means they're not sending the trade-ins to me. I can't buy the trade-ins, so the stuff that we have at auction right now is still it's going to be high for the foreseeable future. It's coming down because the demand is so bad, but we're not going to get any kind of whoosh, any kind of crash, anything like this, because there's not enough inventory in the system.
In other words, you can't buy what isn't traded.
Correct.
And you can't, and somebody can't trade what they haven't been able to buy.
That's right. And people are staying in their cars longer right now. I mean, we can see that in the data. People are fixing their cars more because, I mean, if you have a paid off car, why would you want to trade it in if it's running and go sign up for one of these $900,000 car payments right now? Nobody can do that with everything else. With inflation running as hot as it is right now, nobody's getting rid of their car. So they're not trading in. So it's not making its way to me.
Justice, what do you, when you look at this as someone who's a car coach for the team, how do you think this impacts things for customers moving forward?
Well, my thing about this is, as Brandon said, we were short inventory for a long time. We have some manufacturers have some inventory now, but if they're selling them all to government, commercial, and I do see rental is the highest category here.
Mm-hmm.
So, that actually helps as, the resale market to get something out there. But when you're putting all these commercials, like you said, government and commercial fleets hang on to them forever. So we're going to continue this thing down the road for years to come of no used cars hitting the market. And when they do hit, as Brandon said, their mileage is going to be higher than what you're used to. The conditions are going to be probably worse. Yeah, some people are keeping them and repairing them, but I tell you, most are just keeping them and not necessarily repairing them. I've seen a lot of the things that are starting to come across my desk now, and there's a lot more problems that I see on used cars already starting right now than I'm used to seeing in the past. There's a lot more accidents on certified vehicles, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more, issues with the vehicles that we're getting, a lot more PPIs that are coming back with issues on higher priced used inventory that's still only a couple thousand away from new. I think all this just keeps this sort of trend going for quite some time here.
And I would, even though rental car companies are the biggest portion of the fleet increase, I think one thing that rental car companies have learned over the past couple of years is that they can keep their cars longer than they ever have and put more miles on them than they ever have before taking them out of their rental fleet and trying to get rid of them either through their own lots or through the auctions. I mean, in the old days, they would be getting rid of the cars when they had 45, 50,000 miles on. Today, it's not uncommon for these rental car fleets when they're turning them to have 75, 80,000 miles on them. I mean, that could help you, Brandon, somewhere down the line.
Do we know how long like the average rental company will keep a vehicle? Is that information that's out there? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, typically they used to keep them like 2 to 3 years, okay, and they would put somewhere between 45 and 50,000 miles on them. And what they learned when they had to go out and they were forcing used car values up dramatically because they were the ones buying the 1 and 2 year old low mileage used cars out there for way too much money, but they bought them so they could put them into their rental car fleets. Guess what? I mean, you hear about people who get into a rental car, they're paying tons of money to rent that car, and the car has 70,000 miles on it, 75,000 miles on it. I mean, this is one of the unintended consequences of all this is that the rental car companies learned that they can hold on to these vehicles longer. And there's got to be a tax benefit for doing it like that. For holding on to them longer, depreciating them over a longer period of time.
Yeah, they can write off more depreciation the more miles the car has.
Yeah.
Well, and I will tell you, I have seen rental cars every single day last week and this week that have come across in consults and coaching. And the lowest miles I've seen so far is 32,000 a year. That's the lowest mileage I've seen on rental.
So I've got a question about that. So when you're looking at these rental cars, are rental cars something that you would prefer that your customers that you're helping out that they buy, or is it something that they would avoid? Because I would assume a rental car would be just beat the crap. I mean, because if I'm getting a rental car, I'm testing that thing out. I'm seeing the limits of this vehicle.
So for me, when I'm advising, the deal has to be really good for you to consider a rental. First off, the pre-purchase inspection is so important. There's a lot of these rental car companies that I don't think are maintaining these vehicles very much at all. Obviously, they don't report even when they do. We found rental cars with accidents that were never reported because they self-insure. So I often say stay away from rentals if you are going to go for it. A Toyota Camry over a Dodge Charger for exactly what you just said, Brandon. Like especially these muscle cars that get rented. No, those people push those things to their limits and test those out. Are they doing that on a Corolla? Probably not as much. But you really got the pre-purchase inspection, as it's always important, so much more so on a rental car, if you're even considering that. But honestly, they're mostly overpriced anyway.
Okay.
They tend to be. Brandon, I have a question for you because you tend to go to the auctions, I believe, weekly. And the latest Black Book data that we had seen is that wholesale prices had the amount of depreciation or drop in wholesale values had ticked up slightly last week from the previous week. And when I say ticked up slightly, I don't know, it might have lost 0.3 of a point from one week to the next, which doesn't sound dramatic. It only becomes dramatic if that continues for any length of time. Have you noticed any dramatic drops in prices at the auctions that you're going to?
Nothing dramatic, but we have seen that prices have still been going on this downtrend, which greatly surprises me actually, because I felt like wholesale prices should be spiking right now. because the GMs that I've talked to and the guys that I know that are dealers that buy this upper end level stuff, they're saying that they're trying to load up because they're worried about the UAW strike. That on the GM side, the ones that I've talked to, and the guys who buy the upper level used vehicles, they're telling me that they're missing cars left and right that they weren't missing a month ago because the prices are starting to spike from what they're seeing. It's not going to hit my level of car and the mid tier of car in the beginning. It's going to have this trickle down effect. But I'm surprised because there's so many of these newer cars that hit the auction that it's not showing itself in the wholesale data yet. That the prices aren't spiking. That might be a testament to how weak the market is right now. But I expect to see wholesale prices pop as long as the strikes continue. But we're not seeing it, and that's surprising to me. It might be that the market's just so bad that the the scare from all these guys who buy this upper end level stuff is not going to be enough to actually push the market up.
Do you think, and this is a tough question for me to even try and phrase, but do you think that the strike is having any impact whatsoever on new vehicle inventories at this point? Both of you are shaking your head no.
Yeah,
Just
I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything that even indicates that anyone's even really worried about it. I just don't. I think inventory levels on the big three that are involved in the strike were already so high, and I'm not seeing the inventory levels drop. Well, what are we in? What, fourth week of the strike, something like that, or fifth, something like that?
Fourth week, yeah.
And I'm not seeing inventory levels drop anything significant here. So, and I don't know if that's part of the strikes are sort of targeting plants, and it's not like everybody's walked out, so everything is shut. So there's still stuff coming, but I just have not seen any impact from them, or any sign that the dealers think that there's going to be an impact.
So what I think is because they knew these strikes were coming, and a lot of these GMs that I talked to, they prepared for the strikes to come before they actually came because they thought it was going to happen too, and it was going to happen for a while. Is that they pushed that there was this pull forward in demand for production to these dealers, and they needed a production cut before the strikes even happened. And they didn't do it because they knew the strikes were coming. So now they loaded all the dealers. They channel stuff to everything, even parts. I've got a buddy that works at a GM dealer, and he runs parts. And for weeks before the strike, they were over ordering. They had mounds and mounds of parts. They had pallets full that he had to move, transport, whatever. And I talked to him last week, and he said, I looked at the pallet, and there were 7 parts on that pallet. And the thing about it is because they over ordered, and now they can't really get the stuff that they need. And he said that they're probably going to have to start laying off some people in his department just because they're not able to get the stuff in that they need. But that's on the part side. But like you're saying, on the vehicle side, they did the same thing, except on the part side, they're selling them. They can move them. They got to fix cars. But on the truck side, they're not selling them. So they overloaded these dealers with these trucks, and now they can't sell them. And now they need to even cut production more than what the strikes are doing because they can't move these trucks out.
It would be interesting to know. And I don't have anybody on the inside that would be able to provide me with this information, but it would be interesting to know what retail sales, take out fleet sales, what retail sales to retail customers have been looking like for the first 10 days of the month of October. And the reason I say that is why it would be interesting to know is I'm just guessing that because of high interest rates and high payments, that the retail demand isn't nearly as strong as what maybe it had been 8 weeks ago or 12 weeks ago. And that perhaps regardless of the strike, more people have taken themselves out of the market. And so if there was no strike, I think you're right, Brandon. These manufacturers would be cutting down on production rather than the union helping them cut down on production.
Right. And the thing about it is, I mean, there's no consumer out there that's like, okay, I got to rush and go get this F-150 now because the prices are about to spike on the F-150. The consumers are not thinking about that. I mean, this is kind of behind the scenes with just the YouTube thing or whatever, but I've looked up to see how big this strike is actually gaining with just the public's the media eye or whatever. And you can go on YouTube and type in UAW strike and filter to the amount of views, and the videos that have been released about these strikes, nobody's watching them. So it's not even, I mean, it's a topic we have to cover, obviously, but it's not a popular one. Nobody cares. Unless you're in the niche that we're in, right? Unless you're following the car market, the general public, this is just like, oh, another strike, whatever. And they're not rushing out to buy trucks because they think prices are about to spike.
And yet the truth of the matter is that at Ford, the starting price for trucks for 2024 has gone up significantly. So in essence, they really are about the spike. But that's just your normal year-over-year price increase. Well, I won't say the $2,700 price increase on the base F-150 is a normal year-over-year price increase. That reminds me of the Young Frankenstein. And yeah, what did it say on that jar? Abby normal. These are not normal year-over-year price increases we're seeing. But I think the public's just weary of $1,000 a month car payments, higher interest rates, higher inflation, cost of everything going up, that a lot of people just have taken themselves out of the market. And sales are, you take out fleet sales are going to be down. I mean, significantly. Automotive News can write the headline however they want, and they usually do because it's an industry publication. But and I don't know what an average American looks like, but if I were to guess, the three of us kind of look like average Americans.
I was just going to say, this is what they look like, right? This is right here.
In the sense that we look at this stuff and we go, shit, we can't afford it.
Nope.
So,
too, when we talk about the strike and the impact of it, I think back to, your show with Zach yesterday, when we pulled up, Toyota was the, half 50% of the top 10 vehicles sold. How many of the big three were in the top 10? Were there any? Was there any representation there?
I think the F-150.
I think that's it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's not just that people aren't paying attention to the strike because of the strike. Those aren't the vehicles that they're looking at. They're still looking at Toyota. They're still looking at Honda. They're still looking at their Subaru, Mazda. They're looking at the foreign brands who just are not involved in this strike in the first place. So they don't they don't care about the strike. They're not buying those vehicles that are being affected by any of this.
Well, that's just showing that the consumer is gravitating to the cars that are, I'm not going to say affordable, but cheaper than what the big three are offering. The big three are offering big SUVs and big trucks. And you're probably not getting out of any of these dealerships with a vehicle under $50,000 in any case with the big three, right? Or not one that you would want to drive. So I mean I think that's just a testament to that they're going to Toyota, they're going to Honda, because I mean you can still buy a $25,000 to $35,000 car there.
Yeah, you might have to pay $40,000 for it, but
and to me it says something that when you're selling, your sedans and, your little coupes, and Tesla is cheaper than you, you've definitely outpriced yourself. Like you need to, Tesla's considered a premium brand, and now you're looking at $40,000 for a new Model 3 before any incentives and rebates. And you're looking at a Camry for 46,000, top line, of course. But like, come on, like people have to figure out the pricing point. I know, Ray, this is something you talk about almost every single show. It's the price point. It's the where's the base models, where are all the affordable cars, and I know that's why the slowdown is happening, as Brandon said. I think there's a huge slowdown in retail just from what I see on my side. I gauge it by how many new people are coming to us every week and signing up and saying, I need help buying cars. When that number starts dropping, we're not negative, obviously. We still get new people, but the amount of new people is less now than it was 2 months ago, dramatically less than it was 2 months ago, because I think people just they're not going out to the market, and they're not looking.
Well, there was that survey, and it was 83% of the people surveyed said, I can't afford a car. Okay. Well, that's 83% of your potential market that's out of the market. So you're catering to 17% of the people who think they can still afford a car. So I don't know. I do have a question for Brandon, and I think you'll like this question because it indicates that I actually watched some of your videos.
I thought I didn't think you watch YouTube at all. That's that makes me feel good.
I will say this, and I mean it sincerely. I really don't, but occasionally I watch some of yours because I find them fascinating, and I like your insights. Now, having said that, you recently did a video about CarMax, and obviously you went to that lot that is what's the nice way of it's overflowing with metal. Have you had the opportunity to chat with the GM of that store to see if will they talk to you? I guess my question is, will anybody inside the store other than a salesperson, will someone in management inside the store share with you what their thinking is, or have they?
So I wish I would have asked what this guy's role was, but I was there. It was the time before this last one that I was there that he ran up to me, and I thought I was about to get kicked out. But he ran up to me and he said, "Oh, Brandon, I watch all your stuff. I love it. I have to disagree with you though, because you're showing that this particular store is overrun with vehicles, and that's typically the case." Now it hasn't been over the past couple of years, but it's going to be the case from here going forward because we're a distributor store. And the store that I go to, they have a lot of other stores that they service. Now they haven't been overflowing the last couple of years, but now they're getting to the point where they are. And he's arguing that's a good thing, obviously, because they're getting inventory. And I mean, I agree with that. They're getting inventory, they didn't have it. Great, that's great for CarMax. But one thing he said that he said was such a great thing for CarMax that I greatly disagree with him is that he's saying that, I mean, yeah, that sales have been down, but we're still able to have a good business model because we're able to get people into loans that other dealerships can't get them into. So what he's saying is we're having customers coming in here and they're getting a loan and they're getting in one of these cars. And they just said, I just went to Ford, GM, Toyota. I went to all these other dealerships and I couldn't get approved anywhere. And I came here and I got approved. And he said that this was a good thing because it's going to help sales. And yes, it's going to help sales, but the reason being is because they're writing loans to maybe people that should not have these loans. And I talked about this in that video I did recently. That's scary for a company like CarMax to be able to, if everything that he was telling me is true, if they're, and this is known about CarMax really too, is that they're getting people approved. They're holding their own notes. They write their own loans. So they they have the ability to take down the limits or raise the limits on whoever they're actually approving for these loans. And if they're not selling a lot of vehicles right now, the easiest way for them to start selling more vehicles is to get a little bit looser on their lending practices. And that's scary.
I concur. That is scary. But my suspicion would be is that the bean counters have looked at it and have said we can afford to take X number of people and approve them for loans that we ordinarily would not have, because our performing loans will more than cover the non-performing portion of the portfolio. That's just a guess, but I'm pretty sure that's what the bean counters would tell those that actually are running the company. But yeah, they're in a unique position where they can control their destiny to a certain degree by approving loans that others might not. I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a way to keep the doors open and keep the cars moving out, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a good thing short term for CarMax, but
Yes.
not necessarily a good thing for the consumer, certainly, because we all know, a lot of these people getting qualified for these loans can't afford what they're getting qualified for. They're going to get repossessed. These things are going to happen. And, everyone needs to watch out for themselves. Yeah. But maybe we shouldn't be writing these kind of loans.
Yeah, and my wife just forwarded me an email this morning talking about this. North Carolina just actually increased the interest rates that they can charge on a per dealer basis. So that ties right along in with this. So cars that are, I think, over 6 years old or something like that, they actually bumped the interest rate, and it was already crazy high. But now it got bumped a couple points where these buy here pay here dealers can now charge even more interest than what they were charging.
Everyone remember usury laws? Do we all remember those days?
I remember usury laws, but it doesn't seem to matter anymore. And the one thing
now loan sharks look at our loans and go, "Well, that's crazy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The final thing I was going to say about the CarMax situation is it's good business until, well, it's not. And it becomes it's not when the customer stops paying. But they have a pretty good idea as to what the percentage will be of customers that'll stop paying. I see a $2 contribution coming? Thank you, Taker 610. A dealer near me is offering $10,000 off of an EV6 GT. Is that some type of a Kia electric vehicle?
That would be, and I'm hoping that is the discount before any bonus cash, because you have $1,000 bonus cash, and then highly suggest that you lease that to get another $7,500 off of that upfront from Kia. So you should be about 18,500 to 19,000 in discounts off of that.
And that's not to say for people who don't like to lease a vehicle. And I get there are people out there that don't like to.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a way for you to lease a vehicle, and it has a payoff just like a car loan does.
Yep.
And you can get that $7,500 federal tax credit passed through on the lease. And then you turn around 30 days, 60 days, and you buy the damn thing out. And you've got that tax credit that you otherwise couldn't have gotten if you had tried to just purchase it outright. So
something we recommend a lot, and I do with people every week on a lot of these EVs, Kia, Hyundai. Like, look, lease it to get that $7,500. It's just worth the extra hassle to then go refinance and buy it out in 90 days.
This is one of the few times where there's a loophole that benefits the consumer, as opposed to a loophole that benefits a business. So these don't happen very often. When they do happen, take advantage of them. That's all I'm saying.
I saw an interesting comment. So after like in January of next year, you're going to be able to pull that $7,500 right off the point of sale, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
As long as you don't exceed the income caps. I mean, you'll still be able to do it. You just have to pay it back if you exceed the income caps.
Allegedly, the way it's going to work is that you'll be able to pull that forward. You'll be able to use it as a down payment. The IRS, assuming that the dealer files all the paperwork properly, the IRS will send that money to the dealer within 72 hours of receiving the claim. And if it turns out that the customer who utilized that does not qualify for the full amount, then the customer would be expected to pay that back to the IRS. How
Correct,
that would ever happen,
but the qualification is different now, Ray. So one thing, because they did just clarify earlier this week, I think it was on Monday, they were clarifying that it's only the income cap now that's going to, you don't have to have that tax liability anymore, which of course for most EV buyers didn't have that kind of tax liability, at least the cheap EV buyers. So now it's just that you can't exceed the income cap.
Okay.
So so it is a much nicer and easier deal.
I've got two questions on that though. One, what is the income limit? And two, I forgot the second question. Oh, do you anticipate that bumps EV sales in January?
I think it does a lot, and Tesla even said that they will be participating. So you got Tesla right now with 38,000 for a Model 3. Now take $7,500 off of that. I think I think you will see a big shoot up in that. And why wouldn't you? Why? I mean, you're getting $7,500 off of an EV or paying full price for the ICE equivalent. Obviously, it's going to push more people over there.
I think that's the whole intent.
Yeah. And to answer your question real fast, Brandon, 150,000 adjusted gross income for an individual, 225,000 for head of household, and 300,000 for married couples.
Okay.
Well, the good news is I might qualify. And my son could make sure that I do. Having said that, we
need a raise.
having said that, and I appreciate those sentiments, Brandon. I really do. But I want his business to work before he really pays me.
You should go on strike. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
No.
A strike of one.
Yeah. No, I will not go on strike. I am here to support my son and CarEdge in any way I possibly can, with the hopes that we will literally change the way cars are sold in this country. So no, for the benefit of humanity, I will not go on strike. At least the humanity inside the United States. We have crushed nearly 40 minutes. Oh my God! Stop it, Farzad.
Oh, let's get Farzad on. Come on, we can go for another hour. Just invite Farzad. Let's go.
Well, maybe we'll get Farzad tomorrow because Zach is, as we found out earlier, is not available tomorrow either, but he will be back on Friday. Meanwhile, I'll be back. I believe, Justice, you'll be back with me tomorrow.
I will be.
I don't know about you, Brandon, but somebody will be here tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, 8 a.m. in Anchorage, ladies and gentlemen. And for those of you watching in Honolulu, and why you would be watching at 6 a.m. in Honolulu, I have no idea, but it will be here at 6 a.m.
All right, that's enough.
Morning. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for being here. Thank you.